back to the query just a little bit, and then we'll move on. I assume, do you want a first paragraph talking about how the author came to find you, why they think that you're the agent for them?
Yeah, usually just like a line or two. Wouldn't spend more time than that, where it's just like, dear Christa, I found your name at so and so referred, you to me. I see that you work with X author, or you worked on X book, or I read this interview and I thought you would like my middle grade mystery, or my YA contemporary. So something kind of brief like that.
So obviously everyone listening to this should say, I heard you sounding fabulous on the Middle Grade Ninja podcast. And I knew that I had to write you right away. And then second paragraph should be just straight into the pitch.
Yep. Yeah. Like a little bit of summary, give me a sense, like introduce your key players, give me a sense of what the story is going to be. But also, keep it to the point. I don't like any big reveals or twists, told to me in a query. So it's just kind of trying to give me the big picture while also showing me what makes your story unique, what makes it different from what's already out there. So those are all things that are important to have in that section.
Okay, so that's interesting. So the big twist you don't want revealed because you want to read the book and have that fun for yourself?
Yes, because I'm usually pretty good when it comes to twists, guessing what they are when it's a mystery with a big twist. So I like to see if when I'm reading the project, if I get surprised, or if it was, or if I figured it out, early on in the novel. So I rather those types of things not be revealed to me in a query, or even in the synopsis. It's okay if I ask for a synopsis, but I probably won't look at it until later, so I don't spoil myself.
Gotcha. Yep. That's fun. And then that last paragraph where it's relevant information about the author. Mm-hmm. I assume you don't want to know that my child read this book and thought it was amazing. My mom says the book is great. What kind of stuff do you want to know about the author?
Yeah. So, some of the basic stuff, like, I'll see, like, I got my MFA from so-and-so university. Why you wrote it can be really interesting too. For instance, I had this experience and that, drove me to write this book. So give me a little bit of a sense of who you are and why this book, is important to you, and why you, had to write it. It's always interesting to see those things.
And then you mentioned MFA. Does that make a difference one way or the other when you see that?
No, it doesn't really make a difference, but it's just good to know that, this is something that you are passionate about writing, and that you have some experience with that and getting critiqued and all those good things. It's just more interesting to know. It doesn't really drive my opinion in either way. As far as if I'm going to take something on, it definitely doesn't.
And so then next, when you get to the actual manuscript itself, mm-hmm. How much are you typically reading of a manuscript before you have some idea of whether or not you're going to continue?
It really varies. There's been some projects where I've maybe only read 5 to 10 pages. And usually if I stop that soon, it's something with the voice, where the voice isn't just grabbing me. There's a lot of errors in the writing, whether grammatically or spelling or otherwise, that's distracting me. Or I'm just not getting hooked. There's something that's keeping me from being interested. It could be maybe there's authors raising too many questions and I'm confused trying to figure out what's going on. So there's all different kinds of things that could cause me to feel that way in the early pages. But usually I'm reading because based on my submission guidelines, it's the first 25 pages or first 3 chapters. So usually I'm at least reading that, unless it's just something really keeping me from getting that far. But yeah, so I at least read that much, and then if I like that, that's when I'll start requesting partials or full manuscripts based on how interested I was with the writing, the voice, the premise, all those things.
So how do you determine whether you want to see a partial or a full?
So if I ask for a full, I'm really liking the writing, I'm really liking the premise, and I'm turning the pages quickly. I'm interested to see where the story is going. Usually if I'm requesting a partial, there's a lot I like about it, but I'm not quite sure. So there might be something that isn't quite grabbing me in the way it should, but I'm curious enough about either the premise or I like the writing enough that I want to see where it goes.
And I'm curious, I don't know if there's a right answer to this, but that's how I learn, is asking dumb questions. That's my main role.
Any questions?
That's my main role as host of the show, is try and treat the guest with the utmost respect and ask dumb questions so esteemed audience doesn't have to. So dumb question number one, I'm sure there'll be more. If you're going to request a partial, why not just request a full and then just stop reading when you're done?
Well, that is a good question. And when that's not a dumb question. It's a good question. I don't know, but because then sometimes I do very well where I'll have that general feeling where I'm like, would usually request a partial, but I end up requesting a full anyway. So I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that, honestly, because, yeah, I can stop reading whenever. But, yeah, I don't know how to answer that, honestly.
Speaking as a writer, I would rather send you the full so that the moment I know you're hooked, you don't have to wait for me to send you more. You can just keep reading.
That's true. That's true. That's a good way to look at it.
You're already, I assume, in bed in your jammies. You're comfortable. You're enjoying your time reading. Keep going. Okay.